Good morning from a sunny Cherbourg. Midday, actually. You can hear the Angelus in the background if you hear those things in many of these French cities. Behind us, these monster beasts of the Alpes, and we're just going to sort of walk up. They'll sort of join us along here. Here's the line honours winners, L'Azattique. I mentioned Peter Burling and Frank Camus on board. I very rudely missed out saying Tom Lepech as the skipper. These things were rocking a good 35 to 40 knots at some points during the race. They left the Solent doing about 15, which for them is like sluggish as all hell. But they really don't need much. The apparent wind drives on these things is enormous. So even in 10 knots, they're up and foiling. And last time we saw this thing was when we were in Saint-Tropez last year. And François Gabard and Tom Lepech were whipping past all the old classics. It looked pretty cool. Second then, Banque Populaire and Sodebo, and I can't see Actual here, so she's obviously missing from the joint. We're just going to walk straight through somebody's photograph there. So they got in early as this morning. I think L'Azattique was in at about 4 a.m. and the others followed really pretty closely behind. Swift stuff, all right. Okay, so what's next? Well, the fleet's spread out over about 350 nautical miles, anywhere between sort of not having arrived to the Scillies to being not that far off finishing later today. But the bulk of them are sort of between the Scillies and the Fastnet Rock. And that's, they're getting puffs of breeze. So the weather's interesting. There's a high over the Azores, north of the Azores, and it's been sitting there really stable for days. As a consequence of that, the lows coming across the Atlantic are getting bounced north. So what you're doing is just getting continuous ridges coming through, shallow ridges. So the breeze mostly is sort of varying anything from 10 knots plus through to 20 plus in some cases, nearly all of it from the northwest. So you can sort of see it rolling around the top of the high. So that means it's been a pretty predictable race at that level. But the biggest thing has been making sure you avoid the gaps in the breeze as well, because there's a few of those as they roll around over the top of that high. And indeed, if you looked at the tracker, you would have seen that the front end of the IRC fleets were really actually going quite wide, at some point almost heading west in order to get into the new breeze, which came in fairly strongly late last night in order to get up to the rock and then obviously come back quite fast. So how are we going across the divisions? Well, the really big news here is the Australian yacht Bedouin. And we've just posted an interview with Alice Parker, and we'll post one with Linda Goddard, the skipper of that beautiful Swan 53, because they are, or certainly were, it's bouncing around a bit, leading overall on IRC and also leading in IRC 1. That's pretty extraordinary, and there'll be a few people in the rating boats going, my God, how does that happen? Long way to go yet, and she doesn't go that well downwind, so they should be enjoying that while they can. That's pretty amazing. And it's a great story too. They started out cruising. Linda took the boat, I think, for 3 years to the Med with the family and various other players, and then they just gradually got into racing. Did very well, I think, in the Middle Sea race from what I remember as well. Okay, so what to the others? Let's see, 100-footers. So Blackjack is leading that with Scallywag behind and Leopard third. They've got about 150 nautical miles to go, and there's a sort of 2-3 hour spread across there, so Blackjack's doing pretty well there. In Admiral's Cup 1, the order at the moment is Burgest, Jolt 3 and Black Pearl, and in IRC 2, AC2, Jolt 6, Albator and Beau Ideal. So with the two Jolts well up in the chocolates there, it's looking very good at the moment for the Yacht Club de Monaco. What else? The Australians. Well, also further good news. Whisper is leading IRC 0, which is great. Zen doing very well, fourth in AC1. Back to Black had a pretty tough first 24 hours and has been making a little bit of ground since, but she was last 15th, I think, at one point, but she's climbed up a couple here, so hopefully she can come good from there. And we should mention our cousins, our Kiwi cousins, Caro 4th in her division and Callisto 6th in hers. At the moment, Blackjack due to get here about 2 a.m. In the morning, so if there's any chance, we will be out there trying to cover that, or at least on the dock. She's currently doing about 19 knots. We'll bring you more later on. Bye for now.